The courtroom fell silent as the black tomb guard stepped forward, his polished boots echoing like a metronome. Corporal Nathan Brooks, in the pristine uniform of the Third Infantry Regiment, stood tall, the Medal of Honor gleaming on his chest. Whispers rippled through the crowd, some in awe, others in disbelief. Judge William Kessler leaned forward, his voice sharp as a blade. "Remove that medal, Corporal. This is a courtroom, not a parade." Nathan's eyes locked onto the judge, steady, unyielding. The air grew heavy, the kind of heavy that stops hearts. No one knew that a woman in the back row, a retired colonel who owed Nathan her life, was already rising to her feet, ready to turn the room upside down with a truth that would shatter the judge's authority forever. Before we dive into this story, where are you watching from? Let us know in the comments. And if you believe that values like honor, courage, and sacrifice still matter, join us in keeping their legacy alive. The morning air in Warrenton, Virginia, hung heavy with the scent of damp grass and history. The small courthouse, a squat brick building with tall windows and a colonial steeple, stood at the heart of the town. Inside, the wooden floors creaked underfoot, and the ceiling fan spun lazily, stirring the stale air. The courtroom was fuller than usual, not because of the case, a mundane dispute over a rural road easement, but because of a man. Word had spread through Warrenton like wildfire through dry brush. A black tomb guard, still serving, was set to testify. Not just any black tomb guard, but one who wore the Medal of Honor, the nation's highest military decoration for valor. The whispers had drawn a crowd. Locals, veterans, a few reporters, all packed into the pews, their eyes fixed on the door. The bailiff's voice cut through the murmurs. "All rise for the Honorable William Kessler." The crowd stood, chair-scraping, as Judge Kessler entered. He was a tall man, 60, with a face carved from years of wielding authority. His black robe draped over his shoulders like a mantle of control, and his gray eyes scanned the room with the precision of a hawk. He sat, adjusted his glasses, and nodded to the bailiff. "Call the first witness." The bailiff's voice rang out again. "Corporal Nathan Brooks, please take the stand." The room fell silent, the kind of silence that presses against your chest. Every head turned as the door opened and Nathan Brooks stepped inside. He was 28, tall and lean, with a face that seemed older than his years, eyes deep with something unreadable, hair cropped short beneath his black tomb guard cap. His uniform was immaculate, the dark blue coat of the Third Infantry Regiment, crisp white trousers, black shoes polished to a mirror shine. Each step he took echoed with the precision of his training at the Tomboff the Unknown Soldier. 21 steps, pause, turn, repeat. On his chest, pinned above his heart, gleamed the Medal of Honor, its blue ribbon stark against the dark fabric. The crowd watched, some in awe, others in quiet respect. A few veterans in the back row straightened, their hands twitching as if to salute. Nathan reached the witness stand, turned sharply, and faced the room. His movements were deliberate, each gesture a testament to the discipline of a black tomb guard. He stood at attention, waiting. Judge Kessler leaned forward, his eyes narrowing as they fixed on the medal. His voice was sharp, like a blade slicing through the quiet. "Corporal Brooks, before you are sworn in, remove that medal. This is a courtroom, not a military ceremony." A murmur rippled through the crowd, soft, butelectric. Nathan didn't move. His eyes met the judge's, calm but unyielding. "With all due respect, Your Honor," he said, his voice low and steady, "this medal isn't mine. It belongs to the men who didn't come home. I wear it for them." The judge's face tightened. He leaned back, fingers drumming on the bench. "I don't care who it belongs to, Corporal. This is my courtroom, and I set the rules. Remove it, or you won't testify." The air grew thick, the silence heavier than before. A woman in the third row clutched her purse. An older man, a veteran with a faded army cap, shifted uncomfortably. Nathan's hands remained at his sides, but his gaze never left Kessler's. For a moment it seemed he might refuse. Then, slowly, with the same precision he used in every step at the tomb, he reached up, unfastened the Medal of Honor, and placed it on the wooden ledge beside the microphone. The soft clink of metal on wood echoed like a gunshot. The crowd exhaled, some in disbelief, others in quiet anger. Kessler nodded, satisfied. "Swear him in," he said to the bailiff. Nathan raised his right hand. "I, Nathan Brooks, do solemnly swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. So help me God." The bailiff stepped back. "You may be seated." Nathan sat, his posture still rigid, his eyes fixed somewhere beyond the judge. The attorney for the plaintiff, a young man named Daniel Harper in a pressed suit, approached. "Corporal Brooks, please state your name and occupation for the record." "Nathan Brooks," he said, his voice carrying the weight of gravel. "Honor Guard, Third Infantry Regiment, United States Army, stationed at Arlington National Cemetery." Harper nodded, glancing at his notes. "And were you present at the property in question on the date of the dispute, April 12th, 2025? "Yes," Nathan replied. The questions continued, dry and procedural, about the easement, the road, and a disagreement between neighbors over access rights. Nathan answered each one with clarity, his words clipped and precise, but the room wasn't listening to the details of the case. Eyes drifted to Themidol on the ledge, glinting under the fluorescent light, stripped of its place on Nathan's chest. The air felt wrong, like a flag flown upside down. Harper paused, sensing the tension. "Can you describe what you saw when you arrived at the property?" Nathan leaned forward slightly. "I was visiting my neighbor, Mr. Thompson, to discuss the road. His family's been on that land since the Civil War. I got there around 7:30 a.m. The gate was open, but there were two men I didn't recognize measuring the boundary with a laser device. They said I didn't have permission to be there." "And did you?" Harper asked. "I've had access to that road for years," Nathan said. "Mr. Thompson's father served with my uncle. They gave me a key to the gate when I was a kid." Harper nodded. "No further questions, Your Honor." The opposing counsel, a slick attorney named Thomas Reed, stood. He was younger, with a smile that didn't reach his eyes. "Corporal Brooks," he began, his tone light but pointed, "you mentioned a key. Can you confirm it was given to you legally?" Nathan's eyes flicked to Reed, then back to the judge. "It was a gift from the Thompson family. I've used it for 20 years without issue," Reed smirked. 20 years is a long time. Memories can fade, can't they?" Nathan's jaw tightened, but his voice remained steady. "I don't forget what matters." The crowd stirred, a low hum of approval. Reed hesitated, then pressed on. "So, you're saying your memory of this alleged agreement is perfect?" "I'm saying I know what I was told," Nathan replied. "And I know what I owe." Reed's smile faltered. "No further questions, Your Honor." Judge Kessler leaned forward, his voice cutting through the room. "Let's keep this moving. This isn't a history lesson or a war memorial. We're here for facts, not feelings." The words landed like a slap. A man in the back row, wearing a Vietnam veteran's cap, clenched his fists. A woman whispered to her neighbor, "That's not right." The room's energy shifted, a current of unease rippling through the pews. Harper stood again, sensing the moment slipping. "Your Honor, may I recall the witness later if needed?" Kessler waved a hand. "Fine. Step down, Corporal." Nathan rose, his movements deliberate. He glanced at the metal on the ledge, his eyes lingering for a fraction of a second, then turned and stepped down. The crowd watched, silent as he returned to his seat. The metal remained where he'd left it, a small piece of metal that seemed to hold the weight of the room. And then it happened. From the back of the courtroom, a woman stood. She was 50, with short-cropped hair and a presence that filled the space without effort. Colonel Laura Mitchell, retired, once Nathan's commanding officer in Afghanistan. She wore a simple navy suit, but other posture screamed military. Her voice was calm but commanding. "Your Honor, may I speak?" Kessler's head snapped up, his glasses glinting. "This is a court of law, ma'am. Unless you're counsel or a subpoenaed witness—" "I'm neither," Laura interrupted, her tone steady. "I'm Colonel Laura Mitchell, United States Army, retired. I served with Corporal Brooks in Afghanistan. I was there when he earned that medal you made him remove. I'd like to address this court." The room froze. Even the bailiff seemed unsure, glancing at Kessler for direction. The judge's face twitched, caught off guard. "This is highly irregular," he said. "You have no standing here." "I have the standing of someone who owes her life to that man," Laura said, stepping into the aisle. Her voice carried, not loud, but heavy, like a drumbeat. "In 2019, in Helmand Province, our convoy was ambushed. 12 of us were pinned down, taking fire from 3 sides. Nathan Brooks ran through a hail of bullets to pull us out, one by one. He carried me 200 yards with a bullet in his leg. That medal isn't a decoration. It's a debt." The crowd was silent, every word landing like a stone. A young man in the second row, Ryan Carter, a freelance reporter with a YouTube channel, quietly raised his phone, recording. Kessler's face reddened. "Colonel, you're out of order. Sit down, or I'll have you removed." Laura didn't move. "With respect, Your Honor, you're the one out of order. Nathan Brooks isn't just a soldier. He's a Black Tomb Guard. Every step he takes at Arlington is for the unknowns, for the men and women who gave everything. You asked him to remove their memory. You asked him to break his oath." The room erupted in murmurs. A veteran in a wheelchair stood slowly, his hands trembling. Another followed, then another. They didn't speak, didn't need to. Their silence was louder than words. Ryan's phone kept recording, the live stream climbing to thousands of viewers. Kessler banged his gavel. "Order! I will have order in this court." But his voice cracked, betraying his unease. The crowd wasn't with him anymore. Eyes were on Nathan, on Laura, on the medal still lying on the ledge. Nathan stood again, unprompted. He stepped to the witness stand, picked up the Medal of Honor, and held it in his hand. He didn't pin it back on. He just held it, his knuckles white. "I'm not here for myself," he said, his voice cutting through the noise. "I'm here for the men who didn't get a chance to speak. For the ones who never came home." The words hung in the air, simple but heavy. Laura stepped closer, standing beside him. "This isn't about a road or agate," she said, her eyes locked on Kessler. "This is about respect. You disrespected a man who's given more than you'll ever understand. And you did it in front of his community, his brothers, his country." Kessler's hands shook as he gripped the gavel. "This court is in recess," he barked, rising from his chair. "Clear the room." But the crowd didn't move. One by one, people stood, veterans, locals, even the court stenographer. Not in protest, but in witness. They stood for Nathan, for Laura, for the medal now cradled in his hand. Ryan's live stream hit 10,000 viewers, then 20,000. Comments flooded in. "This is America. Honor the fallen. Shame on that judge." The bailiff hesitated, unsure whether to enforce Kessler's order. The judge stormed out, his robe flapping, leaving the room in a silence that felt alive, electric. Nathan remained at the stand, thimble in his hand, his face unreadable. Laura placed a hand on his shoulder, assolent acknowledgement. The crowd began to file out, but not before a few veterans approached Nathan, offering nods or quiet words. "You did them proud," one said. Nathan only nodded, his eyes distant. By noon, Ryan's video had gone viral. It spread across social media, picked up by veterans groups, news outlets, and influencers. The headline was simple. "Judge orders Black Tomb Guard to remove Medal of Honor." The comments were a firestorm. Anger, pride, calls for accountability. The American Legion posted a statement. "Disrespecting a Medal of Honor recipient is a disgrace to our nation's values." The Congressional Medal of Honor Society issued a letter demanding a public apology from Kessler. Evening. Hashtags like Honor Nathan Brooks, Justice for the Black Tomb Guard, and Ye Respect the Medal were trending. The next day, Warrington was a different place. Reporters camped outside the courthouse. Veterans held a silent vigil, standing in formation with American flags. Nathan didn't join them. He was back at Arlington, walking his 21 steps at the tomb of the unknown soldier. His uniform pristine, his medal back on his chest. Each step echoed with purpose, a reminder of the oath he kept. A week later, under mounting pressure, Judge Kessler resigned. The courthouse issued a brief statement. Judge William Kessler has chosen early retirement for personal reasons. No apology, no acknowledgement. But everyone knew the truth. The video, now viewed millions of times, had done its work. Kessler's name faded, reduced to a footnote in Astery that wasn't about him. Ryan Carter released a short documentary, weaving the courtroom footage with interviews from veterans and a clip of Nathan at the tomb, his silhouette sharp against the dawn. The final line of the video was simple. Honor isn't in the medal. It's in the man who keeps the promise. Nathan never spoke to the press. When Air Porter caught him outside his small apartment asking for his side, he shook his head. "There's nothing to say," he said. "I'm just doing my job." He returned to the tomb, to the rhythm of his steps, to the silence of the unknowns. But across the country, something had changed. The story of that day in Warrington became a touchstone, shared in VFW halls, military forums, and classrooms. It was a reminder that honor doesn't bend. Not to power, not to gavels, not to anything. One evening, under a light rain, Nathan stood alone at the tomb after hours. The marble gleamed, wet and solemn. He touched the Medal of Honor on his chest, his fingers tracing the star. "For you," he whispered, naming the men he'd lost in Afghanistan. One by one, behind him in the shadows, a figure watched. Laura Mitchell, silent, guarding the moment like a sentinel. The rain fell, and Nathan walked on. 21 steps, pause, turn, repeat. The tomb stood quiet, but its voice carried across a nation. This is the story of a black tomb guard in a courtroom, of a medal and a moment that redefined honor in a small Virginia town. It's a reminder that at the tomb of the unknown soldier, where every step is a vow and every pause a prayer, the greatest tribute to the fallen is standing tall against injustice. So take a moment today. Think of Nathan, of Laura, of the soldiers whose names are carved in silence. Share this story, not just to honor them, but to remind us all that dignity is the truest measure of service. And if you're ever in Arlington, stand at the tomb, watch the guard's precise steps, and listen. You might just hear the pulse of a nation, steady and unbroken, echoing through time.